We're back at the Generative Age. Hi, my name is Donovan. I'm with my co-host Brendan.
Hey everybody.
And I'm so excited to have Hella Steinbrecher with us today. Hi, Hella.
Hello. Nice to see you.
Very excited to have Hella here because we're deep diving today into the area of people, specifically change management around AI transformation in the organization. We have touched on this briefly in previous episodes, but this will be the first time we're really going super deep. And Hella has a background in cloud, data, and AI, and leads our organizational transformation in the area of technology in our German consulting practice. Hella, maybe you can introduce yourself because I will butcher that for sure.
Thank you very much for having me again. So I think you summarized it quite well already. I'm sitting within Deloitte in the human capital practice in the organization transformation offering, and I'm specialized in cloud, data, and AI transformation. So that's what I'm focusing on. I have I would say long-term background on the corporate side too, in tech companies, worked a lot with IT organizations and different transformation topics.
Hella, so we're going to jump straight into the topic. And folks, we have the experts on the call today. So I myself am living this journey of people and transformational change as we take on AI even within our teams. Brandon, you know what that looks like every day, and certainly working with our clients. So we know that this is really at the heart of transformation, and everyone's on this journey. But if we look at the rate at which AI adoption is accelerating in the organization, or at least being spoken about being accelerated in the organization, our organizational change in terms of people transformation tends to lag behind, or is rather, if I can be provocative, afterthought after the actual technology implementation piece of it. So, Hella, thoughts, comments to this? What does change management look like for you in this AI transformation space?
So I think change management really plays a crucial role when you're leveraging AI in your organization, because the limit is not on the technology side; it's on the people side. That's very important. We can scale AI solution development up to a very high speed, but we also must consider that there is a natural limit of what people can adopt and what people can learn at the same time. This is something we also have to focus on when speaking about AI transformation in an organization.
Yeah. Do you generally, on the back of that, and I want to come to trust in a moment, and just how do we even find time to learn at the pace that we need to, because this is the next biggest hurdle in an organization, and certainly means that a level of change and thinking differently needs to take place. But are you seeing, or do you sense in your client discussions, a resistance to some of the change and adoption of these AI technologies into the day-to-day of the average person?
Yeah, trust is the major topic when we are speaking about workforce and organization transformation in AI. Because on the one hand, of course, why are you leveraging AI solutions in your company? Because you want to generate value, right? But you only can generate value when you're adopting the AI solutions in your organization. So on the other hand, you have the topic of trust, because it's all about people trusting in the technology, so they are also willing to use it and also know how to use it. And we must understand that the major topic, I think, we are learning with it. It's entering our entire life right now. So we have overcome the first state in the past years where it was really new to everyone, but we are still there that people need to build up trust. People might be worried about losing their purpose of their current work or their work itself. And here we have to work on that. Trust means that GenAI will not replace the humans in the organization or the human work in the organization. It will help them. It will make them better. And this is the point we have to stress in the organizations.
Does this start with any level of sort of deciding which use cases are good and bad for generative AI and then communicating that with the rest of the organization? Because I can imagine, you come up with something like ServiceNow, which is for loading IT tickets or something. I have a problem with that computer, I go to ServiceNow. If I were having problems with that computer and I went to HR, like HR exists, they can probably connect me to the right person, but they're not the right tool for solving my problem. I assume that there's probably something else like that with generative AI, where I want to do something, and if I don't know what generative AI does, can I trust in the technology or trust in the messaging from the leadership that I should be able to do this task using generative AI when in reality somebody or nobody's actually done that use case before, or they didn't triage it for whether it was good or not? Do you have any experience along those lines, or have you heard of such a use case?
Yeah, so you spoke about use case development. So identifying use cases, defining them, and then also having these use cases and working with them. I think that's also very important. And we also have examples, of course. So in one of our projects, what we did, we stressed really to think AI transformation holistically from the beginning. So the change management already starts with the use case ideation. When you're identifying your use case and defining it, you should also involve the business early, and you should also think about the processes that might change with it, and the people working with the solution then at the end. I think that's very important. What we did in the project was that we set up a work stream from the very beginning, which was an integrated part of the project management, and then closely also aligning with the technology experts and how to involve the people from the beginning.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What I was going to ask is, like, how do you actually measure that trust? So do you have any KPIs that you set up and you sort of measure the adoption rate, or like volume per user per day, or how does that look?
Yeah, when we are defining the strategic goals of a transformation, we normally always have transformation goals with it that play into the business or bring the business forward. But what we often forget is that also change management can be measured and should be measured. So trust can be measured. And what we also see is that trust is so important in AI topics, but only 31% of the organizations measure the trust and engagement of their employees in AI solutions. This is still already 30%, but it's not yet the rate it should be, I think. And here you can also leverage quite simple tools to measure that. You should define the KPIs that you have, link them to the strategic goals you have, and then implement activities that help you measure that. It could be a pulse check. It could be done via regular engagement surveys, adding questions to it. It can be measured by the participation rate in trainings. It can be measured by many other tools. You can assess even the way of working. So which ways of working are you leveraging, and where you might have struggled still when you're adopting AI solutions, because it's also impacting the way of working, the processes you have. So you can also check on how good you are, for example, in collaborating with other teams.
Perfect.
This is good.
Just to name an example, yeah.
Yep.
You mentioned an interesting statistic that roughly 30% of organizations are measuring engagement throughout their transformation, which is scary, knowing how important people are in transformation. Can you take us to a particular case maybe that you've worked on where you're measuring trust and engagement with your client? Can you talk us through some examples?
An example that I can tell you is an example which I find worked very well because the organization indeed achieved a very broad engagement and a quite good level of trust from the very beginning. So a very high involvement in the entire organization. And what we did there was that I think I mentioned it beforehand already. First of all, start thinking this aspect from the beginning and considering it when you're planning your transformation. So setting up a dedicated work stream for it, integrating it in the project management office. The next thing is that close collaboration in the project organization, with data, with AI teams, IT, also with the businesses from the beginning is important. Then what they also did is, of course, to build up trust, you have to enable the people. So training, talent sourcing is key. You have to ensure that training is set up early. And what we did and what we even do with us at Deloitte is that we use like simple driver licenses for AI, where we have an interactive training, a short one. It's very accessible. It's easy to understand, and tells the people what they have to consider when using AI, from a security aspects about value for them, about where to find what. So to really start with them knowing what will come and what they have to consider. So the AI license, I think, was a key feature. Then it was accompanied by a communication campaign, which was around the entire initiative. In the progress, then, of course, also highlighting successes, highlighting learnings. It's very important to have a transparent, ongoing communication on also what the organization learns out of AI and where it can be leveraged. So you really understand the value the solutions bring. And then then also, of course, experimenting is key in the transformation, and open that experimentation to all people, not only to IT, for example, by providing them the possibility to test process changes with some simple apps, for example. Then I think that was key.
I want to frame this well, because what you're saying now, I think, is a wealth of information towards leadership. I mean, we're talking trust in AI, but there's two components to that. It's the trust in the technology that it will do what it says it will do, and then there's a trust in how we will use it as an organization in order to achieve our strategic goals, right? And it becomes part of the DNA and the fabric of the organization, which in turn is the people. And you mentioned so many good things in there. A clear communication from the leadership towards the organization as to this is the direction we're going, right? You're talking about communicating success stories. I think this is so important. And actually, just FYI, in the last 2 weeks, we within our own little AI team have started to do the same thing. We're starting to communicate the smallest success stories, co-piloting, how something that would have taken an hour is taking 10 seconds now using some of these tools, and just little things that start to encourage people to embrace the technologies more. And I think this, and you'll mention it probably a little bit later, getting the management to really engage with it and empower the people to tell good stories. I think this is such a great catalyst in order for the organization to move forward. Like, let's say I'm a CEO of a tech company. and I don't have people around me that are thinking about people at that level. Like, what practical things should they be thinking about? I mean, I've got an ISV, a software vendor company down the road, which is 500 people here in Prague.
My goodness.
And they are 85% technologists, and they're busy on a massive cloud transformation, right? And like bringing people on that journey that have been doing one thing all their lives and now having to do another thing, it's bizarre, and they don't know how to answer the questions that is just flowing, from the from the top of your head.
I think it's more about establishing communities, so learning communities, AI communities, sharing that, having regular formats where you can nudge new solutions, right? Or also exchange and ask your questions, building also local communities, things like that. Speaking about change, we are speaking a lot about training normally, especially when I'm speaking with IT people. It's all about training, but in the end, it's about a culture change, right? And here it's the communities we have to build up, the mindset we have to change, and the way of working. So how we collaborate with each other too is also changing.
I was actually going to say that's one of the first things that we did actually as early adopters. All of the IT people, everybody in natural language processing and data and AI, we sort of started this grassroots movement and created a Teams group where we put all of our use cases, all of the code, and like access to different API sandboxes, all this stuff. And that sort of movement, because there was a huge appetite for everybody to experiment with these technologies, find out what we could do with them, try to innovate on top of them, and then it was up to the leadership to sort of like fill in this gap. Okay, now that we have this undirected sort of grassroots movement, now we need to direct it in some sort of organized way. Where do we actually put our energy? How do we start to, build,
prioritize
exactly corporate processes around it? And that's exactly how it went.
That's good. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, and I think so too. For us, it was the same, right? And I think in IT, it's starting there very far, but it's across the entire organization. So we can learn from the IT to build these grassroots initiatives. We can connect with each other, right? So we can also connect cross teams. And then canalizing these grassroots initiatives towards the business goals, I think, is also very important, right?
Perfect.
So we're really talking culture when we talk about these practical outworkings in our teams, in our organization, training, education, touching, feeling, playing. Hella, like, what do you feel? What are you seeing are some of the practical outworkings of culture in an organization, and ours especially as well?
When speaking about culture, it's about the daily work we are touching, right? So our behavior in the daily work. And I think that's very important that we also think about continuous actions and what we are doing and key moments of our daily work where we touch AI. And here we can really implement also or establish very practical activities. So, for example, when speaking about experimenting, right, I think this will become much more important, not only for IT, but also for every business area in an organization. What we did, for example, to find out how AI or tools can really help us in our work was organizing a little hackathon in our teams to let the teams work out these solutions and then together prioritize them. And this grew up out of a grassroots initiative. So I think that's just a great example to be open-minded to try out new things, even for example, such like a hackathon in a team which is not used to normally do hackathons, right? So it's really try out new things and do that together. And for leaders, it's important that they support this and that they create this space for experimentation and also the safety that they can do that and also fail sometimes, right? might not always bring out the value you are expecting at the first time, but maybe at the second then.
No, that's really good, and I think in a way it's creating space to build trust with the technologies. Now you don't see it as a threat, but you get on top of it in a sense. You get to play with it. You get to see how it builds efficiency into the business. That's really, really cool.
Also leveraging the people that are willing and really keen to try that out. There are people, and more than we think of in the organization, that want to try that and to experiment and to learn, and that can then be leveraged as multipliers in the organization too.
Yeah, that's good. I've actually been amazed in some of the teams, even from folks that are slightly different generation to me, a little older, let's put it that way. I know I look 25. But they've been encouraging each other. So we're midway through a project and someone's trying to do something in a PowerPoint or trying to, run a piece of data or whatever it may be. And they're encouraging each other going, why aren't you using these tools to do this with? And I'm finding that they're sort of sharpening each other. And I love to see that because it actually challenges me as a leader as well to really embrace these technologies. Pivoting slightly, Hella, I want to focus on maybe the things an organization, or maybe what are the things that causes an organization to fail in this area? Have you seen any examples of where something hasn't been done well and there's been a negative effect to that? So what are the sort of pitfalls or things that organizations should look out for in this area?
It's important that you have defined your common ambition. So what we often see is when being in transformations is that it starts with the leaders not being aligned or thinking they are aligned, but somehow not sharing the same understanding of what's been meant with. That's one thing. Then I think it's very important to also have a clear governance defined to orchestrate and coordinate all the different streams together. You have to measure the if the change activities, the learning activities, the communication you're doing, if that's being effective, if that's impacting the people and helping them to adopt, or if not, you have to continuously assess that and readjust where needed. You have to be very flexible in the activities you're doing based on some principles. I think that's very important things. And then not being open with communication, deciding top down without involving the different business areas would also be key reason for failure, for example, that we've often seen. So involving the people earlier from the ideation onwards is also a key. So there are many facts where you can fail. And I think it's also important that at the beginning, when you're jointly defining your ambition on what you want to achieve, that you also think about what you want to avoid and how you can counteract that.
Yeah. I think that's really, really good. I think earlier in some of our episodes, we spoke about this AI adoption or generative AI at large not being a CDO or CIO agenda. This is an enterprise-wide agenda. And I loved what you said there, Hella, about having the leadership aligned from the beginning in terms of what they're looking to achieve. Because I think that's really, really important. And if you couple that with playing back what you said 10 minutes ago, having a clear strategy from the outset, treating the people as a very, very important work stream in a project. In listening to you, it doesn't sound like this project is any different from a typical technology transformation project. But I think being generative AI and being closer to the people on a day-to-day basis, that people element becomes so much more important. the way that they work, the processes, how we communicate as organizations to our people. This is of utmost importance in this area.
That feedback loop is super important. Yeah, I mean, I've been giving presentations to like groups of partners who don't know what to do with generative AI. They know that they should be pushing it in some capacity, and they have a general idea of why. But as soon as I start presenting, like one of the things that I like to open with is generative AI is really bad at many of these things that you probably have heard on like LinkedIn or in the news that it was good at.
Yeah.
I just remember this one line, which was, well, then what is it good for? And then next slide comes and then there's like a whole, like a giant bullet list of things that it can be used for. So you just have to, you can't assume that leadership knows what to push.
Sure.
And having them connected with the community of practice and the community of excellence and the communities that are actually using these tools, getting that feedback to their level so that they can sort of push in the correct direction. I think that's super important.
Yeah.
Yeah, just take the time. You also try it out, right? So you also have to experiment and be open to that. Spend 5 minutes a day in testing things yourself, and also learning from others. There were two more things I wanted to stress is because yes, it's of course like many other technology transformations too, but there are two specifics here I see. The one thing is that it's a technology-driven transformation, but it's impacting the entire organization and the entire business and all processes in the entire organization, finally, depending on the use cases you have. So there's a very, very strong connect to the businesses themselves. And I think that businesses and IT grow much more together here. They also get the feel to experiment themselves in the solutions and feedback then what they need. So I think here a strong alignment between business, IT, and data is very important. And the other thing is to not forget the mid-management, of course. It's about the team leads. It's about the project managers. It's about all the people that are really working with the workforce together, because they have to lead by example and they have to be enabled to provide guidance in there. And I feel it myself very often still that somehow, as said, sometimes I'm not learning as fast as my teams, and then I have to see how I can keep up with them. So spending time, taking time, giving others time to have the time to work with it and experiment with it. I think that's also important.
I'm so glad you called it out. I was going to ask you about this because we talk about communities and all this stuff that kind of happens, and clearly this is happening at a management level, right? And managers need to be empowered. They need to feel confident. They carry influence in the organization. So this is really important. So a huge shout out to all our managers as they carry a heavy load every single day as we're all on this journey together. Thank you for calling that out, Hella. Just sort of in closing, looking for some key takeaways from yourself, if you could bullet, in a sense, 2 to 3 take-homes that you'd want to leave with leadership, maybe even management, from a change management perspective, focused on the people, what would those key messages be that you'd want to leave the audience with?
I think you said it. There are many, many topics to consider. Let me try to bring them down to 3 to 5. I think, first of all, we were speaking about that the entire time. It's not just about deploying technology. It's about enabling people. It's about building trust in the organization. Closely linked to the value creation, of course, right? So having trust in the organization, canalizing your activities towards the value creation, have the leadership buy-in, and this is really practical, meaning spending time on it, being transparent, communicating it, creating a playground for experimentation, right, and a safe space for it. That's very important. Transparency, I named it already, and then embrace continuous learning in the organization. And learning is a large field. It's not about learning just the technology skills. It's also about learning to adopt new ways of working that will be needed to then leverage also the solutions.
Folks, Hella Steinbrecher, it's been absolutely incredible to have you here today. The topic of change and people underpins everything that we do from a technology standpoint. So this is such an important topic. I cannot stress it even more. I will put exclamation marks on the post as it goes out on LinkedIn. People are at the heart of everything that we do. I don't think for the unforeseeable future that the machines will replace people. So we're still yet to stay. I hope I'm still yet to stay and have a valuable contribution to put forward. Hella, thank you. For the folks listening on this call, Hella is at your disposal online. Chat to her if you have any more thoughts, comments, or want to ask any questions. We'd love to help you. So Hella, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
And to our listeners and to Brandon, don't forget to generate responsibly.